When setting intentions, focus on the specifics of what you really want, not necessarily how it plays out. Russell Dobda. Establishing a vision, writing core values, and creating culture for our businesses is one thing. But have you ever thought about doing the same for your family? On today's episode, that is what we're going to talk about. How to go about doing this. You have the power to be the boss of your own life. I'm your host, Monica Allen. I'm a wife, mom, entrepreneur, best-selling author, lifelong learner, and your biz bestie. I have a love and passion for all things small business. Growing my own company from $700 to over 7 figures annually, my goal is to bring you inspiration, business-focused topics and tips, encouragement, and a community that helps you launch, grow, and scale your business. Whether you are a dreamer, a side hustler, or a seasoned entrepreneur, you are listening to the Become Your Own Boss podcast. It is so hard to believe that we're not only near the end of November, but that we're the beginning of December. If you're here in the United States, I hope you had a wonderful Thanksgiving, sharing time with your family, friends, and enjoying a great meal. I hope you also took an opportunity to show gratitude, give thanks, and reflect on this year. I recognize for everyone this year has not been an easy one, but hopefully you were able to find some joy this Thanksgiving season. As we begin to think towards a new year, 2023, wow, absolutely crazy how fast this year has gone by. I wanted to share with you one of the things that my family did some years ago. As business owners, we often talk about core values, and we've talked about it on this podcast a number of times. We've discussed creating culture in our businesses, and oftentimes that culture is created around and by the core values that we establish as a company. As CEOs and COOs of our firms, we help establish that culture. The thing that make us unique to our customers and clients. I'm certain that there are things that also make our families unique. I think when many of us had kids, we had a vision in mind for them. With or without kids, I think we have a vision for our family. A few years ago, we established a family vision statement and core values. Many of you may already have something like this, principles you and your family live by. They may be formally written down, or maybe they're not. I would like to encourage you to take a moment to build something like this with your family if you don't have it already. If you do, write it down and put them on display somewhere in your home. Let me first start by saying this is not my brainchild. I got this idea from a gentleman named Warren Rustin, who actually wrote the foreword to my husband Ethan's book, Wealth Beyond Money. Warren is a huge mainstay in the Entrepreneurial Organization circle. He is a former appointment secretary to the president, a former global chair of the World's President's Organization, and Dean of Learning for the EO Global Leadership Academy. I had the pleasure of hearing Warren speak at an Atlanta EO chapter event. He mentioned that one of the things that they did as a family was create a vision statement and core values. He mentioned how these things were often revisited within the family, and it would really be a foundation piece for them when a child had a request. And I believe Warren has 8 or 9 children, but he wanted to make sure that if his kiddos were doing something, that what they were doing or what they were requesting was in line with the family's core values. And this could often be a discussion if it was something that they wanted to do. To me, this was revolutionary in my eyes. This was not something I grew up with. I was simply told to do the right thing. And that advice has served me pretty well over the years. However, I strongly believe in intention, setting intentions around everything we do. I strongly believe if we are intentional around raising our children, intentional on them getting an education, us getting an education, intention around growing our business, being healthy, there will be reaping from that intention. Now, that does not mean that everything is always going to work out 100% the way you would like it, or your children will follow every guideline we provide. But in setting the intention, we can then set a vision. So just like we set a vision for our company growth, or scaling our company, we can do the same for our families. And I really want to thank Warren for planting that seed in my family. As Wayne Dyer says, our intentions creates our reality. So imagine us setting an intention of what we would like our families to look like, setting an intention of what we want our home lives to look like. Now, of course, our family is not perfect, but I have found myself reflecting and saying many of the words that Ethan and I set forth in our family vision statement and core values, especially as our children get older and begin to argue more and become a bit more competitive with each other. I want you to take a guess after I share with you our vision statement and our core values. Which one do you think I am using a lot these days? So let's jump into what we've created, and then I will talk to you about how you can do this in your family if it's something that you'd like to do. So our vision statement is as follows. We are a Christ-centered family that adds positive value to our local community and the world at large. We aim to improve upon each generation as our ancestors have done for us. I can definitely get into the nuances of our vision statement. Christ-centered, of course, I feel like it's very straightforward. Positive, adding positive value. I want us to be positive. We want to be positive as a family. We want to impact our local community and the world. So anything that we put out energy-wise into the world, we want it to be positive. And we also aim to improve upon what our ancestors have done for us. That is such a core piece of me because, of course, legacy is my life word. But I think about my grandmother who I saw work 3 jobs to provide for her family, her home, her cars, their food, everything, to let her down and to, in my mind, disappoint or lose what she's worked so hard for is difficult for me. Ethan's grandmothers were both teachers, principal of schools. They worked so hard to educate other children as well as their own. So we want to build upon that, and we want to instill that in our kids because we don't want them to think that it just started with their parents or the grandparents that they see now, but it started with their great, 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 great grandparents and beyond, making sacrifices for a future generation. And we want them to know that and live that. So next are our core values, and we have 3 of them. Now, I recommend 3 to 5, but we have 3 of them, and they are faith, love, and growth. And underneath each core value, we have similar to goals. It's like we have milestones, but perhaps that's not the right word. I guess this would be more like action steps or how we live out each of these areas. So, for example, faith. We put God first in all that we do by praying and giving thanks, giving 10% of our income to our local church and or charities that mean a lot to us. Give, save, live is the order, and that is credited to Andy Stanley because he talks about that. He did a sermon on that some years ago. Give, save, live, and that should be the order in which we work with our money. And Ethan and I fell in love with that, and that's how we roll. The second one is love. First, we will love and respect each other. We will be each other's biggest cheerleaders. And the second point to that is communicate and compromise for the good of the family as a whole. We know that there can be conflict in families. There can be conflict in friendships, but communication and compromise is key. And the goal is to elevate the entire family. Whatever that communication or compromise may be, should be for the good of the whole family. And then thirdly is growth. And underneath growth, we have intellect, read, experiences, quality educations. Those are kind of 3 points under intellect. Then we have health and wellness, eat healthy, exercise regularly, and regular well checks. Those things are important. They're part of our values to go to the doctor if you don't feel well, because your health can impact the entire family. And then lastly is finances. We want to make sure we save. We want to make sure we're properly insured, that we spend wisely, and that we make smart investments. So those are our core values. And noted underneath that is quarterly family well check-ins. And so those are ours. These are currently taped onto our kitchen wall. They're just printed on a white piece of printer paper. As I plan on getting our kitchen remodeled in the future, I have a goal of having an artist create a more beautiful way to display these. We do go over them about every quarter, even though it's not set on a specific date, so it may be once every 4 months. But we do actually talk through them. And if you ask our kids, what are our core values, they can tell you that they are faith, love, and growth. And perhaps that's something we should do. Maybe it needs to be something that we put on the calendar at the end of each quarter. I don't know. Right now it's pretty informal, but they are there for us all to see and to see on a daily basis. The holidays and going into a new year is a great time to establish a vision statement and core values for your family if you haven't done so already. If you do have them, but don't have them written down, this is a great time to do that part as well. But we're going to talk about establishing your own today. If you don't already have this, I'm going to share a few steps to get you started. First, I think it is great to get the entire family involved if you can. When Ethan and I established ours, our kiddos were pretty small, so we didn't really get them involved as much. We do talk through them now, of course, and have even asked them, is there something you think we should add? And they haven't come up with anything for us to add yet. But second step would be have everyone write down a word or phrase they think already is part of your family culture or values. So everyone do this on their own, write down their words, and then this works great if your kids are old enough to do this type of thing. And then you come back and you determine the words or phrases that you like and want to be a part of your values. Again, I do recommend your core values being 3 to 5. That's easy to remember, easy to live by. You don't want a list of 20. That's difficult. Or you can talk about those phrases that perhaps you want to set a different intention around and change something up. If there's a word in there or phrase in there that comes to mind to a family member and you don't like that word, you don't like that phrase, but perhaps it has come up as part of your culture, then set an intention to change it. Find an acronym for that word. Next, your vision statement. How do you want to describe yourself as a family? Talk this through and figure out how would you like to describe yourself as a family? And that's your vision statement. The core values, again, are those words that exemplify your intentions for your family. And then, lastly, ask yourself what action steps you all can take to live them out each day and throughout the year. And those are going to be those key points that go underneath each core value. If you have any questions as you begin to work through this, feel free to email me. I'm at monicaallen.com. Monica@monicaallen.com, or you can send me a message on Instagram. I am more than happy to help. And I hope these steps do help you. I have found that these have been very helpful. Our family core values and vision statement has been very helpful as we move through our kids getting older and more mature. Lately, Ethan and I have been using our first point under love for our kiddos, and that is we will love and respect each other. We will be each other's biggest cheerleaders. We remind them of that because as they become a little more argumentative, as they become a little more competitive, we have to remind them that we are a family and we love each other. And yes, we may have disagreements, but at the end of the day, you are the other person's biggest cheerleader. When we sense the competitiveness getting a bit much, we remind them of this. We remind them both of this family value. We are certain with some reminding, it will sink in at some point because we have set the intention. I want to thank you so much for listening today. I am planning on having a Live Life by Your Design workshop in December. I haven't decided on a date yet, but follow me on Instagram at Become Your Own Boss Podcast so that way you'll know when it's happening. You won't miss it. Take a moment. You're probably walking or exercising, but if you have your phone in your pocket, take a moment to follow me on Instagram at Become Your Own Boss Podcast so you will know when this is happening. I also like to share business tips and inspiration to help you stay the course, to help you become the boss of your entire life. And my handle is the same on TikTok at Become Your Own Boss Podcast. I'm so grateful for you. I hope you have a great rest of 2022. As we move towards 2023, I am your biggest cheerleader. I truly am. So take a moment, if you don't mind, to share the podcast, leave a review for the podcast, rate the podcast, do all the things for the podcast. Now is the time. Now is the time to level up, leave a legacy, and become your own boss.